Welcome back. Another episode of NASCAR Fantasy Fastlane, the full of players on the couch today. I'm a little worried as I look across there. Jessica's had a rough morning. She's been, it's just not been good, which we were surprised to see, Jessica. Let's be clear. So the couch, it's myself, Steve Letarte. We have Twitterless Russell. Back from his Bryce Harper Love Tour, it's RJ Kraft on the end. And then a special guest. And she was never a guest until now. But if you listened last week, you know that Jennifer in the middle there, that's a whole other story. Jessica here is moving to Atlanta, so she's no longer going to be a weekly participant. But surely, I mean, Atlanta's not far. You're going to drive up and see us?
It's not far. I got to come back as a guest, right? If you guys will have me.
We thought we were going to have at least a week off.
I know.
Week one, but
we were surprised.
I couldn't resist.
I think she showed up because let's talk about last week, Texas, and the first of all, extremely entertaining 500 miles. I thought it was one of the best races of the year. I'm done trying to figure out why. Whether it was the hard tire, the surface, the track prep, who knows? I don't care. I just want to be entertained. I'm a pretty simple guy. I was entertained, but the problem was I had a major issue. My issue is very simple. I had Brad Keselowski and Kyle Larson. So that doomed my day because I could only get one of them out. I chose to take Brad Keselowski out, save a start is the only reason. He wasn't going to score any points. So that killed mine, and that's why I think Jessica's here because how many did you score last week?
I was like 160. It wasn't my best, but it was
Which, just
better
to be clear,
than
160
you.
is 28 points more than me. You see how she said, that's better than you.
I was 165.
So look, okay, so I was bad, but you guys are talking 160s as good weeks. I looked at the high scores of the week, RJ, and I thought it was down considerably 2 weeks past.
I would, to steal an NCAA analogy, this was like survive in advance. Like,
you
were, like I got 158, and I felt good about that.
That's right.
Which almost any other week I would have been like, no, you just crapped the bed.
I agree. 200's my goal, and at one point I'm like, man, if I can get to 150.
But I also evaluated it based on who I used usages out of. Like, I hadn't used Jimmie all year.
Right.
Right.
Hardly used Chase Elliott. Decent day. Not great, but decent. Blaney was the one I kind of lost on the table with his trouble in the latter half. Logano's overall point day, not terrible, but
subpar Logano day, but not a bad day.
And Kurt Busch, who I had hardly used.
Yeah, so I agree with all that. Did anybody get any bonus picks correct?
Stage
Manufacturer.
2.
None.
Than me. I got none. I got none.
Stage 2, I got Hamlin. And that was a complete shot in the dark.
You just was like,
yeah.
I was going to say.
Complete shot in the dark.
You basically were at a Bryce Harper game. You're like, I got to put somebody in. Hamlin.
I was back last week, Steve. I was back.
Doesn't matter. So, we all agree it was a rough. We're going to get into props later. If you think I delivered poorly on fantasy, wait till you see props. I matched my career low, which luckily is only 7 weeks in. But I think we move straight ahead, right? We talked at the beginning of the year. Last year was actually a little bit easier all year long, big 3, so it was pretty easy to predict. It was really about your number 4 or 5 driver. Texas threw that into the wrinkle this year. But now Bristol, I mean, what do we even know? What are we going to dream? This is what I know. They're going to have a ton of horsepower. I expect it to be the fastest Bristol race we've ever seen. I think the track record is in jeopardy qualifying. I think that the race is going to be fast, which is going to make it tougher to move through the field if you have trouble, but I think it's going to be caution-filled. I think that it's going to be so fast. I think frustration is going to build. The other thing we've learned about Bristol in the past is they treat the track and all these stories, which don't really matter, but the simple fact is you could throw practice away, right, because they practice on the bottom, they race on the top. So with all of that said, Russell, before we talk about drivers, are you going to Bristol? Because you have to ask. You pick which ones to go to.
I'm not going to Bristol.
I figured not. So never mind with him. I'm going to be watching practice, I think, more than I'm going to be looking at lap times. So normally I would say, hey, let's look at lap times and see who's good. I'm going to physically be watching practice to try to get an idea of what car even looks good, right? Like who's doing what they want with their cars.
So the practice sheet doesn't matter. The consecutive laps doesn't matter.
Well, I'm going to watch practice and decide if it matters, right? My point is if the groove starts to move up by happy hour and they start running in the middle of the racetrack, Larson normally goes out there and runs 20 laps, 2 seconds off the pace. I don't know why. I had a principle to try to run the top in. So we'll see. So it's going to be interesting. So let's jump right in. So I have my number 1 guy, and the stats would say not to start him, but my cornerstone pick of the entire Bristol weekend, you ready? Because you're not going to get this guy. Kurt Busch in the 1. He's my guy. I think that if you go back to Bristol when it had a ton of speed, when the groove did move around, it's a driver's racetrack. I think he has a ton of momentum in the one car, and I think he's looking more and more. I'm not going to say they're a driver. I mean, Kyle Larson is their franchise driver there. But I started to hear some rumors in the last couple of weeks, and he even had a quote that something about, we were going to just do a one-year deal and wait and see. And I think the window's starting to open that this is a guy that could get a long-term deal there. I think momentum's on his side. We had this conversation last week, Jessica, about momentum, and I think it's there, and he wants to strike why momentum's there. So before we even get into the numbers, I like Kurt Busch.
Well, what we've seen from Kurt this year is we've seen that momentum carry through almost week to week. And he didn't have a great run at Texas last week, I don't believe. I don't remember where he finished. But
Yeah, he's just inside
Ninth.
the top 10?
Top
it was
10,
ninth.
but-
Okay, he
but
did
no
get a top
stage
10.
points.
So, but he still manages some decent runs week after week. So I think what we've seen from Kurt this year is consistency that we haven't seen in the past years. He's been kind of up and down in past years. So I think Kurt, his Bristol history, while he's had 6 wins there.
Like I still see that Sharpie car cutting the bottom.
I know.
But he won the last race there, so
I
we
know.
shouldn't be surprised.
He did.
Yeah, I know. But you weren't going to have him.
I was iffy on him.
I'm a Kurt Busch fan. Remember, that's my guy at the end of the couch. It's not a Kurt
I mean,
Busch
his
guy.
Bristol. I'll say.
I
he
wasn't
played
gonna
Kurt
ask
Busch
RJ.
last
Well,
week.
no, his Bristol numbers are very Jekyll and Hyde.
So to be
They're-
honest,
that's what I'm saying.
so
They're
to
up
be
and
honest,
down.
Let's be clear. This podcast has value to a lot of players, but I don't know why we bring RJ on. Because he's like, I'm not going to play Penske. They're on his lineup. I don't like Kurt Busch. He's in his lineup. I'm not going to play. Like, he basically
I
just
haven't
comes
been
on
on.
here and spews information
I
that he
haven't
doesn't
been
follow.
on. I haven't been on for 2 weeks, so I haven't had anything to say.
All right. So Kurt Busch, let's stick right in the Chip Ganassi camp. Let's clean them both up. Kurt Busch, I am a positive for Kurt Busch for sure. We talk about usages, right? So he's a guy, I have some usages. I expect him to run really well. I'm in on Kurt Busch. Kyle Larson.
Second in both races last year.
So here's my problem with Kyle Larson. You ready? I don't know if they've lost the horseshoe. I don't know if they walked under a ladder. I don't know if they broke a mirror. But, some races this year, you can be like, they didn't execute. They had a few issues. But it's like, it's more than that. It's like he snake bit, right? Because you and I had this conversation. He looked good at Texas all weekend long.
He was the fastest in everything.
Like, you're like this. So in my mind, that's why I had him in my lineup, because I'm like, this is his breakthrough week. I don't know if they cut a tire, abused a tire. That's not here for conversation. The simple fact is, him as a driver did nothing other than hit the wall. So I'm going to be wrong 1 week before I put him in my lineup. I am avoiding him. Even though the numbers say put him in, I'm out.
So even if he leads every practice, comes out, qualifies in the top 5, you're going to avoid him.
RJ would definitely make a stance here. So I would say, yes, I'm avoiding, because he just did that last week at Texas. I put him in, and he throat punched me.
I'm the polar opposite of you. I'm all in on him.
Oh,
for this
boy.
Me too.
I like Kyle Larson.
This is where I'm making my move right here. You guys are all in.
He's never finished outside the top 10 in anything since stage points there.
One of 3 pigs.
And
Those
to
are
be
house
clear, I didn't care for him at Texas, even with the practice times.
Oh, look.
I didn't.
Did you
man,
have
for
him
2
in?
weeks.
Did
Get
you
off
have
your
him in?
soapbox.
What? Was he in your lineup?
No, he was not in my
He's
lineup
not
at
in
all.
my
You
lineup
can't
either.
see as tall as that soapbox is. He wasn't
Hey.
going to say that if he had him in.
How many points you have last week?
Less than everyone. Okay, so there you are. We're going to go through. I think we're going to do it by organization this week. Chip Ganassi Racing. I think everybody likes the 42, but me. It seems like we're split on the 1. Pretty positive at the moment. We'll see. We'll see how practice goes. Let's jump to the big name, the team that probably company-wide had the worst performance in Texas. It wasn't for having slow race cars. It was some sort of a drive chain issue on the 2. It was an actual broken part, which leaked the water out on the 12 and ended up an engine failure. And then the 22 just, Is that a technical term?
Yeah.
That's a good
I
one.
mean, they
It's
seem
fitting.
to shoot themselves in the foot with a couple pit road penalties.
So
too.
let's talk Team Penske. Team Penske at Bristol. I mean, is there anyone that the numbers would say to avoid?
Keselowski.
You would say avoid Keselowski numbers-wise.
Yes.
So
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so I'm
Best
avoiding
finish
Brad.
in the last 6 there is 16th.
So listen, it goes with starts as well. He's going to run really good other places. I'm avoiding Brad Keselowski. Joey Logano, the numbers would say he should be in your lineup. Top 10, 6 of the last 7 at Bristol, including a win back in 2015. He's led a bunch of races at Bristol, so he gets a lot of stages. He's always up front there. I'm kind of having the same problem, though. So this is my week that I'm going to have a very odd lineup. I've been very bullish with big names. This is the week I'm not going to be bullish with big names because I am going to save the lineup. So basically, we're in trouble. Oh, we are in trouble. Production came over, moved our cords.
Sorry.
She didn't know she was going to make the podcast, but she just did. So I am basically going to go kind of off the beaten path. I'm avoiding Logano, even though the numbers say he should be in. I'm avoiding Brad Keselowski. The numbers say he should be out, but I have Ryan Blaney in. I'm all in on Ryan Blaney for Bristol.
I totally agree with you.
I think Ryan Blaney, I think this is his week. This is his week to shine. My concern is, how do they take the frustration of last week? He was very adamant on the radio, right? I mean, he blew up running well. You know, is that – you talk about momentum, right? I know a bad run you would think would be a negative, but sometimes it almost takes the pressure off, right? The crew chief can get the group together and say, guys, look, there's timeout. It's a long year. Like, why are we feeling all this pressure? We know our man can win. We know the cars are going to be good. I know what I'm doing on top of the pit box. You know how to change tires. You know how to do your job. You know how to do your job. Let's just go there, block and tackle, X's and O's. I think that's what this Bristol race is going to be, is 500 laps at these speeds could get away from you quickly. Block and tackle tie-up day. I like Ryan Blaney.
So when you look at Blaney's stats, it's interesting because the last 2 races he's led 100 or more laps. And prior to that, he had kind of had some trouble. So what I want to ask you, I guess, as a crew chief, is this one of those tracks that kind of clicks with drivers?
I think it does. I think it's like a Martinsville or Richmond. So here's how I look at Bristol. There are certain tracks that if your car is not good, I don't care how good you are, it's not going to go. Indianapolis. There's really one way around Indianapolis. I mean, there are details. I'm not trying to take the driver out of it. But the best driver in the world, if it doesn't do what he needs when he gets to those 90-degree corners, he can only do so much. When I look at Martinsville, you can move around a lot. Richmond, you can kind of move around a lot. Bristol, we just talked about the groove moving around. You can kind of enter low, exit high, exit low. So I do think once a driver has – I don't know what happens. I don't know if it clicks or if they finally have a good enough car that they then, oh, this is how I'm supposed to drive it. Oh, okay. And then they know what to ask for in practice. It kind of all goes together. So, yes, I feel once it clicks, you have a better chance. So I like the tipping of the right direction for the numbers. You can jump right in. You don't have to raise your hand.
And last year was his first year with Penske there. So since he went to Penske there, I think that's a big thing.
And also, despite the bad finish at Texas, this was a guy who had 3 top 5s going into that race and was running well before the trouble. So
and the numbers
not really of his own doing.
Yeah, at Bristol are a little odd for Blaney because he has that 35th place finish, but he got wrecked while leading too for that. So
yeah, and he led how many laps?
You're telling me there's more information than just the numbers?
Correct. Well,
yes. Correct. Moving on.
It's true because when I was looking at his stats, I said, "Oh, he finished 35th."
Yeah,
wait, look how many laps he led when he finished.
Right.
Yeah, he got into a lapper. So that's why you can also look at this as like a wild card race. Like this to me is like a Daytona Talladega for me.
I am concerned. Last week I had 2 guys that had trouble. When we get done, when we sit back here a week from today, I would love to tell you that it was the most important thing was, who had the best driver and who won the race. But I think it's going to be the guy who has all the guys on the racetrack. Like I think this week could be the one where you have 8, 10, 12 DNFs because of wrecks. That will kill a lineup quickly. So we'll see. The big one. I said it was coming to Vegas. Maybe I'll come at Bristol. I don't think it'll be the big one. I think it'll be a bunch of little wrecks, but I figured you would like that.
There's always a big one at Bristol.
There really is.
And
my point, so now when you start talking, I know you say faster, right? What does faster mean? Well, if you pick up lap time a half a second, that's a lot. Like that is a lot of lap time. Stuff's coming way quicker. It's going to be busier for everybody. So it's definitely going to be, I won't call it a struggle, but it's going to be interesting for sure. All right. We have to talk about this guy. He went 2 for 3 last week. He's won basically everything he was in. He's Mr. Bristol. He's the guy that has swept there twice, Russell,
Twice.
And when I mean sweep, I don't mean 2 races. I mean the trifecta. Won all 3 races there, Truck, Xfinity, and Cup, 3 times in his career. I saw on social media his wife just threw him a surprise 200-win party. Everything in life seems to be going right for Kyle Busch. I know he was – and – he didn't win last week because of a very rare driver error. Like, I don't care how the car was driving, but they get paid millions of bucks to not make mistakes. Kyle Busch makes few, if any. He's the last guy you want to have to run for a win. He bobbled up the racetrack and then got into the fence. Self-admittedly, he said, I just pushed you hard. I think he's going to come back with a vengeance at Bristol. So I am bullish. Kyle Busch is in my lineup. I don't care what it looks like in practice. He's my guy.
100%. I completely agree.
I mean, the only argument against is if you've used him like 5 or 6 times already.
No, but
and even that, I don't know that you.
I'm all in.
Go against.
I think there's too much risk to take him this week.
Really?
Like he's feast or
Okay,
famine there.
So here's the thing. It's your Ryan Blaney analogy, right? There's no question where he's going to run. The question is here is the only thing. I'm going to side with Russell a little here. I'm not changing my lineup. He's in. But here is my concern. He is going to race to win Bristol. He's in the playoffs. Points are good. And my point is, it's a full. Why do we go to the Last Great Coliseum? Why do the fans flock there? Because it is a bar fight. It is not, I'm going to take the air off your spoiler. No. It's going to be slide job, clip the apron, slide up in front of you, slam the door on this guy. And he's the guy that he will wreck trying to win the race because he doesn't care about second. That is a concern. And my concern is that's going to happen in the final stage where I can't get him out.
Like he didn't finish 3 of the last 6 there.
Listen, you know me, I'm a gambler.
He also won 2 of the last 6 there.
I get that, but is it worth that? It's the risk versus.
All right,
He
we're
won
gonna
2 of
find
the
out.
last 3.
So listen, if you want to know what everybody really
Those are
thinks,
better
you have to wait to the end to get everybody's lineups. It seems like we're split on Kyle Busch. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about odds. We're going to talk about prop bets. Real quick, let's clean up Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm all in with 2 Joe Gibbs drivers this week. One is the 18 of Kyle Busch. The second is, you know it,
Eric Jones.
Eric Jones, the 20 of Eric Jones. He is going to run up front. I don't know if it's his time at Winchester. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's just a wheelman, but he likes the half mile.
He likes Bristol.
I'm avoiding Martin Truex Jr. Can you say that? Are you avoiding?
I am avoiding him.
What happened at Texas? Man, talk about meh. Meh.
I don't have a good.
Wasn't good.
I don't have a good answer.
Wasn't good.
They just didn't have the right brakes. Like the track position didn't work out for them. They're not running bad. He just didn't
that awkward
finish
silence
well
is me staring at Russell.
I have a question on Jones for you. Are you at all concerned that the bulk of his strong Bristol performances have come in the night race? His 2 spring race performances have been meh.
Yeah, so explain the difference there.
So, from a crew chief standpoint, a little bit's the temperature. I mean, the night race is right in the middle of August. It's hot and slick even at night. I really think a bigger difference, my opinion, is the schedule. And what I mean is, so this week you're going to come in, you're going to practice a little bit, you're going to have a little bit more time. It's a drawn-out 3-day weekend, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. They haven't changed the Cup weekend, right?
No,
it's still a Friday practice, Friday qualifying, Saturday race.
Yep.
So what that does is if you're not good, which is the majority of people that go down into Thunder Valley, you can – this is going to sound crazy. Just shut the noise off, right? Like you're going to get out of the bowl of the noise. You're going to go to a hotel. You're going to go to your motorhome. You're going to cool down, calm down, talk to your driver, deliver a new plan for Saturday, try it again, deliver a new plan for Sunday. Versus the night race, you show up and for 12 hours, that's all you hear for 12 hours. Like your head wants to explode. So if you're not good, it's hard to make it better because there's just no downtime. That's why I think he's better there because I think he makes up more for the car. Like he's just naturally better. I think in the spring race, guys kind of catch up. But I think there's enough unknowns with this aero package that I think is going to help him. It's going to race a little bit more like the night race. So I'm all in.
Okay.
That was a good strategy, wasn't it? I sold
You
that.
convinced me.
I lied. I'm in. All right, so Eric Jones we like. Kyle Busch we like. How about Denny Hamlin? Denny Hamlin's one of the hottest drivers. 2 wins. I'm getting dead stares. No,
I'm
listen.
iffy on Denny.
I got Richmond. I can give you a bunch of reasons he's not in my lineup.
Just
pit road penalties.
Oof,
He makes one at Bristol, and that's
you're done.
fait accompli.
Come again? My man with the spring training, he get back all fancy.
He was all fancy.
Oh boy, I'm telling you. If you're listening, you should definitely find the video on YouTube because my man is decked out. He's got Philly spring training hat, a flannel he borrowed from Ryan Blaney, and what is the undershirt?
The undershirt says Harper Trout 2020.
Stop! It does not.
It does, but that's not
can't
going to happen.
I ordered it before.
It should say Harper Trout 870 million because isn't that what they both? Isn't that the total? 430 and 400, 830 million.
I suck at math, but
I don't know what their contracts were.
Harper was
closing in on $1 billion for the 2 of them.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, real quick, we got to
goodness.
move through. Denny Hamlin, I'm thinking saving him, not because he doesn't run good. I will say he is my pole pick before we ever go. Denny Hamlin's my Bristol pole pick.
That's a good one.
And the 19, look, they're going to have to. So I don't think it's the breaks that he said. I don't believe what Russell said. It wasn't track position. It wasn't this. It's very simple that they're going to have to figure out how to work within Joe Gibbs Racing because they do not unload with the same firepower that they have unloaded for. Maybe it's the rules. Maybe it's the move to North Carolina. There's a lot of question marks. But until they start crossing some question marks off, I am anti-Martin Truex Jr. and anti-Kyle Larson. Those are both going in my do not touch pile.
That's fair.
That's mean, but I agree with you. For
People don't listen to this podcast.
Well,
I'm not a cheerleader. I'm not here to root drivers on.
I'm gonna give
Kyle
you.
Larson, Mark Truex Jr., great guys. I have a relationship with all of these guys. But the reason the fans like what we have to say is because we say our opinion.
Yeah.
Forget about the Gibbs move with Truex.
Forget about it.
He's just not good at Bristol.
He's really not.
Like the numbers are not good. He was solid in the night race until the incident with the 18 last year.
Cooling Russell down here.
Well, I'm not just saying he's not good. He's good at Bristol. Like he wrecked while running second last year.
Stop. He is not Martin Truex good. Martin Truex Jr. is you need top 3 points or he shouldn't be in your lineup. Quit wasting
Right.
my
So
time.
I would not put him in at Bristol
Good Lord.
because of the same reason I won't put
All
him
right,
in
we
at
need a little
Daytona
fantasy
Talladega.
break. We need a little fantasy break. We've covered Penske. We've covered Gibbs. We've covered Chip Ganassi Racing. We're going to come back, talk about Hendrick Motorsports. But before we do that, let's dive right into props. Let's stop from fantasy for a minute. We're going to have a little props. Just remember, every week it's just not NASCAR Fantasy Live. Go on, play the props challenge. 10 props. Each prop bet, you get a point for getting right. Unfortunately, as I know, you can get a point for getting one wrong. I had a bunch wrong last week. The most fun, though, is it resets every week. So set up some bets with your buddies. How's your tea? Is your tea good? Because my -6 bought.
I enjoyed it.
Everything
I enjoyed it.
It was.
So you were -6 this
I was
week?
-6.
Wow.
Ooh.
Should we relive everyone I got wrong? I'm not sure we have
Yes,
time for that
I would
in
like
the show. Let's do this. It'll be a way quicker and more efficient show if I tell you the 2 I got right.
Yeah.
I got correct the over-under on lead changes for Sunday's race being over 16.5, and I got correct that the winner will start inside the top 10. Those are the 2 I got right. Just assume the rest were wrong, and you have my schedule. I didn't know there could be that much red ink. Like, you get the prop slip, and I'm like, oh, boy, if that was a report card.
It's like an old
I'd be
grade
grounded.
school paper.
You're in
So let's
school
talk
and it's all
props for
red.
Bristol. Props for Bristol. We're going to start. We're going to put Jessica right on the spot. I like the head-to-head ones. Austin Dillon, Daniel Suarez. Go.
Daniel Suarez.
I'm telling you, I like not a hesitation. She's a guest now, so she just throws it out there like it's nothing. Anybody have Austin Dillon on that bet? All right, moving on. Austin, have a good day, but Daniel Suarez, I think we're all – why? Is it Daniel Suarez or is it Stewart Haas Racing?
I think it's a combination. I think what we've seen from his Bristol runs has been consistency in his entire experience there at the Cup level. But also I think with being at Stewart Haas Racing, he has the equipment to go do that. And we saw, at Texas last week, he had a really, really strong run. I know they're completely different tracks, but we talk about momentum all the time. That team needs momentum.
And how about some of his quotes? He said he had never been tighter with his race team than
He
how
did.
He is, right? So, Bristol, you're not going to run 500 laps of smooth. Right? You're going to be like, everything's going to go good. Nobody's going to hit me. That's not how it works. And you don't have time in 15-second laps for, hey, buddy, how's your car? Don't have time for apologies. Don't have time for I'm sorries. Don't have so that continuity, that comfort. I know the guy on the other end of the radio believes in me. I don't have to sell it. So I like Daniel Suarez for that reason as well. That might be a little preview to my fantasy picking. Busch brothers. This shouldn't be this hard, but this is hard.
It's really hard.
Kurt versus Kyle.
It's
Kyle.
not hard, Kyle.
Kyle, this is not hard.
I like cream and sugar. RJ, cream and sugar next week.
You think Kurt Busch is going to beat Kyle Busch?
Actually, I'm not going to play that one. Truth be known, right now, Zero's looking like a pretty good score. So the last 4 spring races have seen an average of 17.5 lead changes. I have an unpopular answer to this.
So
Under.
it's under if you're saying it's going to be so fast.
It's under. It's under. It's under. It's going to be it's going to be under. The only reason it might be over is if it is caution filled. You have a lot of restarts. You could have a guy lead at the line. That's officially a lead change. You can get a little bit of sprinkled in lead changes like that. But do I expect to see the lead change on the racetrack under green a bunch? I don't. It's going to be fast. But that's not a negative to the race. She came over and fixed my coordinates, strangling me. I need to fix this. It's not a negative to the race. It's just you have to watch the race differently. Like it's all about position. You cannot slip up, right? And I think that's valuable.
Well, and where somebody pits could affect that too. Like we have pits on the backstretch there.
Oh boy, I didn't even think of that. Now maybe it's over.
Well, so the race winner came from the pits on the backstretch.
It's not as big a
3 of the
disadvantage.
last 4.
It's not a big a disadvantage as it used to be. And they got the timing lines kind of worked out. There's no more jumping in your box. And to be honest, you actually can pick up your speed going around the corner. So if you pit on the backstretch and you pull out and there's no one in front of you, you can run a better speed through the corner. A little inside baseball. Jessica's looking at me like, I don't know why you're telling me that. I don't care. Sorry, I'm just going back to the pit box days. Let's go to
Just
Denny
reliving
Hamlin.
it.
Will he add another victory to his resume? That's an easy no. I feel like it's a softball bet.
That one was for you.
Thank you. But I will say
They get
this.
to do that.
I will say this. If you're in a group, and like the only way you're going to score the perfect 10 is if he doesn't win, you and everybody got a free point. But if he somehow won, I will go out on a limb to say that if Denny Hamlin wins the race, there will be no perfect 10s.
We only had 3 last week, by the way.
That makes me feel that
Yeah.
it was a tough week.
Yeah, it was.
Tough week.
Obi-Wan Mahomey,
Just
too.
patting
One of the
himself.
3.
This one I thought was going to be easy. Alex Bowman inside the top 10.
I'm a
I would.
yes. I'm a yes on that.
I don't.
I'm a yes.
I would
So
say
wait a
no.
second. She was an automatic no. He said yes, and she was like, "Ooh, you're a guest. You
I
can
feel
be
good
wrong.
about
Just
that.
throw it out there."
I would say no on Alex Bowman, and not because I don't think he can run well at Bristol, because we have seen him.
That's exactly what you're saying. Is he's not going to run one at Bristol?
No. But I don't trust him enough to actually.
I love
You don't trust him for what?
I don't trust him to actually finish inside the top 10. I don't. It's.
Here's the problem.
What did
Let's
he
just
do
be
last
clear.
year in
No,
both
let's just be
races?
clear. Here's the problem. I have no problem being a jerk. She can't. But he's a nice guy. And if he hears this, I don't want him to think I don't trust he's going to
You're
run
moving.
good.
You're not around here anymore.
Like,
Just
come
say
on,
it.
Just say it.
No, because he's been good
Okay,
at Bristol the past 2 years.
So why is he not going to be in the top 10?
It's not that I don't think he can run in the top 10. It's just taking the odds of him being one of the guys in the top 10. I don't know if I want to take it.
But there's 10 spots. It's a lot.
Right,
There's-
but
he
if I
could
go back
finish 10th,
through,
and it's a win.
All right, enough picking on Jennifer. That was pretty funny last week. Did
was
other people
terrible.
call you Jennifer or just me?
just you.
So those that don't
After
listen,
how
we
long?
had to do 2 closes last week because the first one I thanked everybody from Russell and Jennifer, and I was staring right at her, and her look was kind of like, I thought we were friends.
I did.
At
I
least
was
you thought-
heartbroken.
At least I thought you knew my name.
How many years, Steve?
You know what? That closing in on 40, and my brain's getting a little mushy. We don't have to go through all these. Let's see here. We talked about Daniel Suarez and that. Will one driver lead more than 100 laps? I think that's as easy as the Denny Hamlin one. That's an automatic yes. Somebody's going to lead 100 laps there for the simple reason that a
Wait,
fuel
more
run-
than one driver.
Well, more than one driver, yeah. So I think it's going to be at least 2 guys.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Especially the way the stages are broken
Well,
down.
just for the simple fact, it's 500 laps. I'm not trying to be ugly, but it's not 300 lap intermediate race. I mean, there's 500 laps to be divvied up. And what jumps out at you, RJ? Is one of these? Which one is the creme de la creme? Which one did you put your spin on?
I mean, I would have said the Bowman one. I also like the stage points one.
So I just saw that one. That's why I asked, because that one. So in my mind, without looking at the data, I think that's an easy over. Like, man, you're telling me that. So the bet is over under 12.5 drivers earn stage points. What that basically we're saying is that the second stage will have at least 3 drivers different in the top 10 than the first stage.
I don't-
When you say it like that, I don't know.
I don't know that it's easy, but I agree with you that it's over.
All right. And
Especially-
no offense. Oh, go
Especially
ahead.
because I'm banking on between stage 1 and 2, there's going to be a pit road penalty that screws somebody in the top 10 up.
Man, you're a pit road. Like, you went to baseball, came back, and you're Mr. Pit Road penalty
I-
today.
At Bristol, it's catastrophic, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen to somebody.
All the big
lot
words.
He's using a lot of big words. You
I
hanging
know.
out with my man Nate Ryan? Because that's a multiple
He took the dictionary with him.
Oh,
last
I tell you, now I know
did.
what you were doing
That was
with
While
your
he's
kids.
that was
sitting
my
in the
nighttime
stands.
reading.
Big words by Nate Ryan. And no offense, Matty D, I think this is kind of like the Hamlin bet. No, I don't think he's going to run the top 10. I just don't. I mean, he's done it, and he's done it in much less equipment. So for Jessica in the center, I'm going to be nice and say, Matty D, we're cheering you on. We're just betting against you. Is that how you would say it?
That's how I felt about Bowman.
Maybe we should have Matt join I'm going to ask Matt if he wants to join Fantasy Fastlane one week.
Do it.
He's a great guy. If you don't know him on social media, he's a fun guy, fun to watch. He's always, I won't say always in a good mood. That's unfair. But he is more than not fun to be around. We'll try to invite him. So, all right, well, there's our props challenge. There's a couple other ones on here. We haven't gone through them all. So it was a bad week for me, -6. You were?
+4. Plus.
+4.
-2.
So really the couch is about split.
How you doing for the year, Steve?
I'm +5 for the season. That's not how this game works, but I am +5 for the season.
That's how our
very-
new bet goes, though, right?
Very
It didn't until today.
very quick to point out that's not how the game works because he's losing. But
Well, I don't
that's
want the
not-
fans to be confused. They're like, "Wait, that's not season standings. There are no season standings."
Okay.
I mean, this show is about the fans.
We
It's not
should
about
though.
Russell.
We should though. We mentioned it briefly. We should give a shout out to 3 perfect scores.
Three
That-
perfect
That
scores.
was, I think, the lowest we've had in the 7 weeks
I
of
love
the
it.
prop challenge.
I
So,
love it. All right. I like this pretty good. I like this. I think this is going to be my week. I'm going to do better. I can't do worse.
So which ones are you not going to
There's
play?
not-
There's at least one you're not going to play, right?
Well, you said you were going to
Kurt
punt
Kyle one,
the
right?
Busch brother one, yeah.
Or are you not going to play all of them just so you don't go negative
So he
again?
doesn't
Yeah.
go.
0's a good number.
Let me see. I'm going to play yes.
Yeah, if you have another -6, he's in
I'm going to play
negatives for the
7
year.
or 8 of them.
Wow.
I'm not going to have the Busch brothers against one another. And I will probably not have the 7.5 different leaders on Sunday's race.
That's a tough
I'm
one.
going to avoid that one.
That's
too.
a real tough one.
I did a little bit of homework this week before I sat on the couch. Those are the 2 I'm going to avoid. All right, so should we go back to fantasy? What's the world thinking, or do we want to get a little Vegas odds in real quick? Let's go back. We haven't covered everybody in fantasy. We're going to break it up a little. We'll go through a little bit more, then we'll talk some odds before we get everybody's lineup. I'm going to need your pen at some point there, RJ, because I didn't write anything down over here.
Okay.
But so let's talk. We've talked Team Penske. We've talked Joe Gibbs Racing. We've talked Chip Ganassi Racing. I think the big one who had the biggest movement at Texas, we cannot avoid Hendrick Motorsports. I mean, I was nervous. I had Jimmie Johnson in, but I won't lie, I was nervous. Qualifying concerns me when all of a sudden a team is that fast. They went 1 through 3. But then in race trim, they kind of backed it up. So then I believed in them. And so on Monday's NASCAR America, myself, Jeff Burton, and Dale Jarrett broke this down. And one thing we liked most about Jimmie Johnson's day is it wasn't perfect. And what I mean by that is he didn't just have track position and keep it and coast into a top 5. There was a point there that he was at like lap 200 or so. He was in 12th. So, and to let everyone know how this works, when you're in 12th, you're back there outside the top 10. That is like a fork in the road. And you can easily end up 15th, 17th, one bad restart, one bad pit call. They ground their way back into the top 5. That's blue-collar racing. I love that about Jimmie Johnson. That has given me probably more excitement than even how fast his car was. This would be the time for you tell me to something.
Well, I like Jimmie Johnson's day. I was all in on him on the practice data. He was fast and everything on Friday, and I like him this week too.
I have nothing to add because I agree with Russell.
Okay.
I know it's a rare moment, but I agree with him wholeheartedly on Jimmie for this race.
We need just a moment to let this soak in. Okay.
When you look at Jimmie at Bristol, despite the struggles that team has had these past year and a half, 2 years or so, he's finished 11th or better at every single one of those races. So to me, that 5 straight races that he's been there. So to me, that says that he can run there no matter what is going on. And with the momentum coming from Texas, to me, that says he's due for a strong run this weekend.
All right. We already know that you think Alex Bowman can't do it. So
no,
what does everybody
I'm
else
not
think about
betting
Alex Bowman?
Ah, gosh.
So
Okay,
he was
let
top
me-
10
let
in
me
both
clean
races
up. Let me
last year.
just clean that up. I'm picking on you because of the prop bet. Are you going to have Alex Bowman in your lineup?
No.
Okay, go ahead, Russell.
So he's top 10 in both races there last year. I think the other big thing here with Hendrick is their good runs last year were on the non-aero tracks, like your Bristols, your Martinsville.
I hear you, but they were bad at Martinsville. Everybody but Chase was bad. You can't sugarcoat that. The 3 other cars were bad.
I didn't say this year. I said last year.
Okay, but, I mean, just to clear this up, that we racing this year, right?
Yes, but Chase finished second. So
I'm good with Chase.
okay.
I'm in on Chase Elliott. I like Chase at
How-
Bristol. I like Jimmie at Bristol. I'm anti-Alex Bowman at Bristol. And William Byron is just he's still too young.
How do Martinsville and Bristol compare in terms of comparing them?
They're close in the country. That's about really it. I mean, to be honest, they really are. The only thing, while the tracks race totally different, completely different, the one thing that is somewhat similar is the length of the day and the pace in which the race moves. I know the lap time at Martinsville is much slower, but when I mean pace, it's just like both tracks, this is going to sound really silly, but from on top of the pit box, pit road opens early and quickly. You know, the pit stall entrance is the end of the backstretch at Martinsville. It's off turn 2 at Bristol. I know that doesn't seem like much, but a team that hasn't got their communication ironed out, you know, it's cautions out. Well, how's your car? Pit road's open. Well, you have to have a good, distinct plan. I think that hurts some of the inexperience on top of the pit box. First time I went there, it was a blur. I was like, oh, yeah, we missed pit road. I wanted you to pit that time. I need to do a better job, simple things like that.
So does Chad help William Byron?
Yeah, I think Chad helped him at Martinsville. Look, I think William Byron in 18 months to 2 years, he's a guy you're playing at Bristol. But it's like, look, I've said this on the record multiple times. He should still be in Xfinity. He was a champion. He should have returned as a champion. He should be running a partial cup schedule this year. The business model moved him up. I don't like the approach they have at grooming their drivers about moving them up early. I don't like that. It worked for Joey Logano, but it was a rough few years. William Byron's a great talent, but I think that he would be better served cutting his teeth in the Xfinity Series.
But you could say it didn't work for Joey Logano.
Good point. We don't know what it could have been the other way, so that's a fair statement. So anyway, so that's where I'm at on Hendrick Motorsports as a whole. Jimmie Johnson. Here's basically, I'm a potential Jimmie Johnson, Chase Elliott guy. There's nothing I'm going to see out of the other two that's going to put him in the lineup, even with Alex's great runs there.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have Bowman in. It's part of a. It's
I don't
part
know why
of
we
a,
listen to you. You're lying to us. You lie
No,
to
I'm
us
not.
every week, and then Sunday
I'm
morning
not
you
lying.
change it.
I'm not lying. You're giving the fans false info. You guys talked a little bit about hedging a little on saving some uses. And
Okay, so I like where you're going here.
I think Bowman could be a solid play in that regard. I'm not looking to get 35 points out of him. I'm thinking if he can give me a solid 25 with maybe a couple stage points, I'll take it and run.
I don't completely disagree with that statement. Nobody.
The numbers suggest he's not a bad start for sure.
That was a backhanded compliment if I ever heard one, Russell. Jeez.
Well, because I look at this as a wild card race, so you're not going to burn a use.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to want to use.
So
Bowman
let's talk strategy for a
10
minute. Keep
times.
talking drivers. Let's just jump right into strategy. So look, it's more than just about what drivers you pick when it comes to NASCAR Fantasy Live and who's going to perform well. But remember, it's a 26 race season, the regular season. 10 races per driver is your limit. So the math would say you need at least 13 drivers. You look at Bristol as a wild card. So before we talk who's going to be in our lineups, let's talk just your strategy. I don't look at Bristol as a wild card completely, but I will say that I got burned last week about having two guys in. I couldn't get one out. So I'm going to make sure that I am not going to start Kevin Harvick with Kyle Busch with Brad Keselowski. Only one of those three can be in my lineup because I can't afford to burn a start with a bad finish. What say you three about strategy at Bristol?
I think it's a mix between there's certain guys that I feel very confident about at the top of the board, and then there's going to be other guys I'm going to kind of pick and choose based on uses.
All right. Jessica, is there any two drivers you won't both have in your lineup because you're afraid to use them?
I would say probably a Kyle Busch and then like a Brad and Joey pick, like a Team Penske kind of pick.
Okay.
I haven't used Kevin Harvick a lot this year, simply because we haven't seen Kevin Harvick-esque numbers coming out of him, and that's kind of funny to say because he's finished in the top 10. But so I haven't used him much as yet. So I'm kind of, I don't know if I'm avoiding him, but I'm just not playing him quite yet. So I'm looking at Penske and Busch.
I don't play
so you
any
say
of
it's the wild card. So
it's the
explain
wild
to the
card.
fans. This is why they're listening here. How do you see it as a wild card?
For what I said earlier, Ryan Blaney leading and gets taken out by a lap car. Anything could happen. It's so tight. It's so fast that I don't want to burn a use on a guy that's going to get wrecked out.
All right, so that's the strategy when it comes to Bristol. We've talked about most of the big organizations. One left, really. Let's talk Stewart-Haas Racing. I don't know how you rate Texas. 4 cars in the top 10, positive. Daniel Suarez, good run, positive. Kevin Harvick gets out, says the car was crappy, hasn't had a winning car all year, negative. I mean, it's hotter. Why the results are not hot or cold, the opinions about running inside the top 10 and the expectation, hot or cold.
Their 4 guys basically swapped.
Yep.
Like Harvick and Almirola were their 2 best guys all year, and now Boyer and Suarez ran the best at Texas. So I don't know.
So listen, I think that's Kevin Harvick. I don't think he's trying to hurt anybody's feelings. He's just that's how he motivates his team. That's his goal. I think if I'm going to put anybody in at Bristol out of the Stewart-Haas camp, it's going to be Clint Boyer, just because I haven't seen a lot out of him everywhere else, even though he had a good run at Texas. But right now, I'm kind of a little off. The numbers would say Clint Boyer, but
I'm in on Clint Boyer. He had a top 10 with H. Scott. That's good enough for me with him in an SHR car.
coming off the top row. Listen, that's the first definitive. I like what you said there. I'm with that. I'm with that.
And he's my short track guy.
How about Eric Almirola, Mr. Concrete? Runs good at Dover.
Wait and see for me.
He's not good at Bristol.
All right. So there's one other name we have to talk about. Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
What about Daniel?
I was going to actually, what about Suarez?
Oh, I've already written poor Suarez off, I guess.
Really?
Yeah.
I like him this weekend. But I told you I was taking him over Dylan in that prop
Now,
bet.
why do you like him? What makes you like him?
I like him for the consistency he's shown at Bristol. We haven't seen runs from him that are spectacular, but I like the consistency he's shown. And I like the equipment he's in this year with Stewart-Haas Racing, and I like the momentum he has coming into the weekend.
So he's your Bowman.
Yeah.
So what was wrong with Joe Gibbs' equipment at Bristol before?
There was
How about
nothing.
his broken hand, though? He did have a broken hand or a thumb or something. So you got to take out one of those races.
Okay.
That's not in your stats?
That's some inside information there. I like
Don't
that.
you remember he had a cast on his
He
hand?
did.
So,
To your point, no, there's nothing wrong with Joe Gibbs' equipment. You're right. But I will say that he seems a little bit more comfortable at Stewart-Haas. He
Thank you.
seems like he's a little bit fitting
like he
better
almost
in
feels
there.
like he belongs.
Yes.
Since the fight.
I forgot about that. Maybe that's what it was.
I think that's what it is.
Maybe he had to do a little throwdown.
Got
Yeah,
some
the
respect
team
there.
got way closer together.
Tony
after-
Stewart was like,
All
I
right,
like
well,
it.
so listen, we've covered a lot of drivers. We're going to come back here in a moment. We're going to get everybody's lineup.
Do you want to cover Stenhouse? You briefly mentioned him, and then we talked about Danny.
Oh, yeah, you're
Sorry.
right. I'm sorry.
No.
So I was just moving it past.
No,
Does
you're
anybody have Ricky Stenhouse in their lineup?
Yes.
Because he's
Yes.
been top.
Yes.
Woo, boy.
I might take him out now.
I'm going to go one more, and I think Ryan Newman's going to outrun Ricky Stenhouse. I thought that should have been a prop bet this week. Blue collar Newman. I'm telling
How'd
you.
Newman do
Not
at Martinsville
passing.
when you had him?
Martinsville, it was a little bit disappointing.
Because I thought it was full of BOL Bologna. Yeah.
That was not a Nate Ryan comment right there. All right.
But
So
we
you guys
said
think Ricky
Martinsville
Stenhouse-
and Bristol are different.
So I am not. So Ricky Stenhouse always runs good at Bristol. I mean, finished fourth in this race last year. I mean, I'm talking myself into running. So he's one. Let's be honest. I'm going to watch him in practice, see if he shows. Because when he does run good at Bristol, he also runs good in practice. Like he doesn't just show up on the scene in the race.
Right.
Even though we talked about how difficult practice is to find the favorite, I do think you can say, hey, is this guy having a decent weekend? And him specifically, I'm speaking of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., did show up in the practices and then backed it up in the race. So I think his hand will be showed by Sunday morning. No? Yes? Yes?
No, I agree with that.
And like I said, Ryan Newman, look, I keep picking on Ryan Newman, but he's been top 10 in 5 of the last 8 Bristol races because he's blue-collar Newman. I mean, you can't shake him.
You're not passing him.
You're not passing him. It's going to be fast and perhaps gets to be a little one groove when it's fast. So let's talk about some odds. Last week, we were unable to have the odds from our friends at Westgate in time for the podcast. And someone else was at spring training, which means we didn't have them. So real quick, we only got a few minutes left here. Let's talk odds heading in.
We'll start at the top of the board.
Let me just guess. Kyle Busch, 3-2.
3-1.
3-1. Okay, a little bit harder. A little bit harder. Just give me the next guy. Who's the next favorite?
Kyle Larson.
So I don't like this bet. It's what is it? 5-1, 7-1?
7.
7-1. Okay.
Then
What are you saying, Russell? I should do this for a living? Is there anyone else at 7-1?
No.
Really?
We
What's the
dropped
next
down
one? 10-1.
8-1.
Oh, 8-1's about the same.
Pair of teammates. Would you like to guess who they are?
A pair of teammates at 8-1. I would say it's Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano.
It is like you do this for a living.
I'm telling you.
Then we have a duo at 12-1. Same manufacturer.
Same manufacturer, the duo at 12-1. So you're saying it's Kurt Busch and Chase Elliott?
I'm saying no on neither.
Toyota.
No.
Who?
Harvick and Blaney. 12-1.
Wow.
So I think that's unfair to Harvick. And here's why. I'm not talking about fantasy or whatever, but I mean, you're going to put Blaney equal with Harvick? I mean, I think personally that's a good line because I think he's going to outrun Harvick. But all right. So 12.
So maybe
nobody
they know
I'm
what
betting
they're
on
talking
yet.
about.
You haven't given me anybody I'm betting on yet.
I would consider Harvick at 12-1 because
Nah.
only because if you wanted to bet on him during the course of a season, these are probably as low as his odds are going to be.
You give me $10 now, and if he wins, I'll give you $120 back. I feel like I'm going to be $10 richer. All right, so now on a serious
Now we got
nobody has jumped. Anybody jumped out to you two before
No.
I move?
No.
All right, keep going.
a slew of people at 14-1.
I don't like 14-1 for anybody. Keep going.
6 drivers. Do you even want to know who they are?
Well, let's hear him. Let's see who's on the list.
Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Clint Boyer, Chase Elliott. All 14-1.
I think that's a great odd. I think all guys you just mentioned could win this race. At 14-1, I'm not betting on. I mean, like I have yet to hear a driver. Have you heard anyone and everyone he's given so far, from the favorite to here, would any of them shock you to go to victory lane?
No.
Okay, I agree. So I'm not betting on any of them, but they're good odds. Okay.
Eric Almirola, 20-1.
Nope.
The weekly Jimmie Johnson update,
Is it
25-1.
So his odds are coming down.
I
It's
would-
killing my
Yeah.
I
That's
might
tough.
take that one.
25 to 1. I liked it better when it was over 30. I mean, that's one good run at Texas. Let's be clear here. Let's not. I mean, his last top 5 before Texas was, back when Russell had a flowing mane of hair.
No,
was-
but
that was
25
mean
to
to-
1, I still kind of like him.
Jimmy.
Yes.
All right.
I'll throw another one out here that could be fun. Stenhouse, 25-1.
I like Stenhouse at 25 to 1 better than I like Jimmie Johnson at 25 to 1.
Really?
I wouldn't bet on either.
I think Jimmie Johnson could win this before Stenhouse
You're
wins
probably
it.
right. I don't like either at 25 to 1. I retract my statement. You're right.
Okay,
I
now
got
we're
carried
going.
away.
Now we're going into the 60-1 range.
Now you
Now
might
I
have my
like this one.
interest.
Daniel Suarez.
Okay, Daniel Suarez at 61 is a legitimate bet.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Stewart Haas Racing Equipment, Stewart Haas pit crew. He can drive. Like, I'm not saying he's
He
going to
loves
lead
Bristol.
300 and something laps, right? You get a wreckfest race. He ends up in the top 5, late pit stop. You get the guys from track position. That's a 60 to 1. Now, see, now you're getting somewhere.
And another driver we talked about at length during the props portion a little bit, Alex Bowman, 60-1.
I like Daniel Suarez way
I
over
like
Alex
I like
Bowman.
Suarez at 60.
We're not even going to ask Jessica. We know where she stands.
But I would go both, to be honest.
You would go both?
I would go both at
Who else you
61.
got? I still haven't heard. Whose name haven't I heard?
Austin Dillon, 80-1.
I don't think there could be enough wrecks.
Hello Newman, 100-1.
100 to 1 Ryan Newman.
His head popped up.
Hey, hello.
Take
Newman.
His head goes, what?
I'm telling you right now. There you go. I would be
100 to 1?
So,
100-1 as of this morning.
all right, so there you have it. I think
I
Vegas
got
is doing a nice job. I think the favorites are good. I think 14 to 1 is a good quality investment. If one of your drivers, we blew it off, but let's be clear. If one of your drivers with those 6 drivers at 14 to 1, run them off again real quick.
At 14-1?
14 to 1. There were 6 of them.
Hamlin, Eric Jones, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Clint Boyer, Chase Elliott.
Any of those drivers could win the race. If that is your driver, we'll make this very simple. If that's your driver and you're in Vegas or somewhere that the sports book is open, I don't think if you said, hey, I put $25 on my guy for it, I'd say, you know what? Great. Enjoy the race. Make it a little more exciting to watch. And I think your guy could win. So
And then a couple other long shots too with the Newman.
normally everybody here would be in the field.
Byron, 100-1.
He's going to win eventually. He's not going to win at Bristol. Okay.
Matty D, 200-1.
You can't say no.
You can't say no to that.
Russell can't
He
say
tried.
No. Now,
He's
listen,
struggling.
Here's my suggestion. If you're in Vegas having a great time, right, you're out there gambling, blah, 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 take $10 you're going to put on blackjack, get 4 of your buddies, and go put $50 on the 200 to 1. And if it hit, bar the door.
And
it
if you
would
like
be.
if you like that one, here's one more for you, and we didn't talk about him much. Ryan Preece, 500-1.
That would be the better bet.
Russell, where are you going?
Russell's going
That's
to Vegas.
a way better
Really
bet.
put a 500 to 1 bet up there. Let me
Yep.
tell you how this works. You bet if you think that's a good bet, you better run now because the first guy that puts $50 on it, it's going to 100 to 1 because they're not going to have a lot of action at 500 to 1. These casinos are not crazy.
And Priest has won there in Xfinity and a modified.
Whew, I mean, it's not worth becoming unemployed, but I would probably give it a shot. If I was out in Vegas, it'd be a good time. So there's a lot of good bets there, a lot of good long shots. All right, time. Here we go. Closing down. Lineups, give them to me. The guest goes first. Speaking of which, before we get too far along, Jessica, it has been a blast. Last year, you and I did Fantasy Fastlane together. You've joined us on the podcast this year. Good luck in your move down to Atlanta. Good
Thank
luck
you.
on the upcoming wedding. I hope you haven't lost your way to here at Charlotte, North Carolina. Come back and be a guest at any time, unless you start out scoring us, and then you're not welcome.
Oh, so I got to play bad.
Just
Okay.
to be clear. Just to
Always
be clear.
always a contingency.
There's always a contingency. So
contingency,
guest
little
goes
asterisk.
first. Go ahead. What's your lineup look like?
All right. Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, Jimmie Johnson, Kyle Larson, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Garage, Daniel Suarez.
So we're a lot the same. So give me the theory. Give me the start it again.
Kyle Busch,
Big name.
Ryan Blaney,
Okay, I can have them together. Doesn't bother me.
Jimmie Johnson,
Still liking where you're at.
Kyle Larson.
I don't like that pick at all.
Yeah.
But the numbers would argue otherwise. Okay, so you're not outside the box.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr.,
Same thing. Numbers would say. And your garage?
Daniel Suarez.
I mean, she's not all in. She's going a little
I'm
bit with your strategy.
It's kind of mixed.
I'm similar to her.
Similar to her. All right, go then. RJ, you go next.
Okay, I'm gonna split mine into 2 tiers.
Okay.
The ones that are not coming out under any circumstance in the Sunday. Since you're gonna
he's
call me
qualifying
out. Since
this.
you're gonna
Write it
call me
down.
out.
He's qualifying this.
Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Clint Boyer, Jimmie Johnson.
They're in your lineup.
Yes.
Got it. Love it.
Stenhouse for the 5th spot and Bowman in the garage.
Can be adjusted with practice.
Absolutely. Suarez
Love it,
definitely
love
a
it,
consideration.
love it. All right.
So I'm Kyle Larson, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ryan Blaney, Jimmie Johnson, Kurt Busch, and Chase Elliott in the garage.
So this couch is eerily similar. So not moving in my lineup until the race would definitely go in if they have an issue is Kyle Busch. He's in, signed, sealed, and delivered. The 20 of Eric Jones is in, signed, sealed, and delivered. And then I have Ryan Blaney, Jimmie Johnson, Kurt Busch, garage, Chase Elliott. I mean, we are all dancing around the same lineup right here. I'm going to tell you, if there's a wreck that takes out Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, and Ryan Blaney, this is going to be a sad couch. So the final, well, this isn't the final, but this is at first as a guest. Jessica, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Twitterless Russell in the center. RJ finally back from sunning himself at the baseball fields all across the Southeast. The Phillies fan, he's happy the regular season is here. So as always, please check out the entire video on YouTube. The podcast is on iTunes. Go ahead, subscribe, rate, review, let us know what you think about it. And all weekend long, if you have any questions about your lineup, you can tweet myself, you can tweet RJ. I'm sure Jessica's not shutting her Twitter off just because she's moving to Atlanta. She'd probably still love to talk fantasy. So this has been another edition of NASCAR Fantasy Fastlane.